Welcome to Form of the Week, a new form of poetry every Sunday. This week, the Blitz poem. Blitz poem is a created poem, meaning it is created by somebody. This particular poem was created by Robert Keane. The Blitz poem is 48 lines and it focuses on repetition using a strict pattern of several rules. Form. There are several rules we are going to need to cover. First, the pattern. Let's use Bucket of Poetry by Robert Keane for our example. The first line of every Blitz poem starts out as a short phrase. In this case, kick the can. The second line of every Blitz poem starts with the same word as the first line. In this case, kick. Kick the bucket. Now, the first word of the third line is the last word of the second line. In this case, bucket. Bucket of chum. The first word of the fourth line is the first word of the third line. Bucket of worms. Now this pattern continues. The last word of the fourth line becomes the first word of the fifth line, and then the first word of the fifth line is the first word of the sixth line. At the end of the poem, this pattern changes. By the 44th line, we have the line reading poetry. Poetry goes down for the beginning of 45 and is also the first word of 46. Now, the pattern changes for the last two lines. 47 is the last word of line 46, and only that word. Line 48 is the last word of line 45, and only that word. The title is also subject to some of these rules. Let's look at the poem Bucket of Poetry for our last example. First, the title must be 3 words long, and the second word is a conjunction, such as of, it, or and. The third word of the title, in this case poetry, is the beginning word of the 45th and 46th lines. Now what does this mean? Let's use our example poetry to see. Look at the 45th and 46th lines. Their first words are both poetry, the third word of the title. This means that the 44th line must end in the word poetry to continue with our pattern. Reading the Blitz. The Blitz is read fast and without pause except for breath. Kick the can, kick the bucket. Bucket of chum, bucket of worms. Worms and dirt, worms in my brain. Review. Let's review the Blitz poem. The Blitz poem is 48 lines and focuses on repetition. The pattern. Start out with a short phrase such as kick the can. The first word of the first line is the first word of the second line. The word of the second line is the first word of the third line. Pattern continues until near the end of the poem. Lines 45 and 46 continue this pattern. However, line 47 is the last word of line 46, and line 48 is the last word of line 45. The title is also subject to some rules. It must be 3 words long, and the second word is a conjunction. The third word of the title is the first word of lines 45 and 46. A quick note. Some sources say that the Blitz poem is 50 lines long. This doesn't change the pattern, just extends it 2 lines. Have fun!